Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Mordy and Glory video. In today's episode, we will continue to cast our critical eye over the Imperial Guard 10th edition index and its datasheets contained therein. This time, taking a look at everyone's favourite religious shouty boy, the Regimental Preacher. These bombastic orators are not only responsible for protecting the souls of the guardsmen around them, but also for whipping them up into a pious frenzy, getting them ready to take on any enemy of the Imperium, no matter how horrifying, with nothing but a rusty bayonet and the faith in their hearts. Well, at least that's the theory. In reality, not always works out that way. Regimental preachers have a little bit of a storied history over the course of many editions. They've always been there, they're a classic and iconic unit for the Guard, but they definitely have waxed and waned in terms of usefulness. But the most important question is, how do they fare in the new edition? What are they like in 10th? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let me preach his name! Let's dive right into today's video. As is tradition, let us begin with a brief overview of what the hell regimental preachers actually are. Basically, they are the representatives of the ecclesiarchy that are attached and seconded to Imperial Guard regiments. Now, you might think that having a bunch of crazed zealots running around would not be a good thing for your military operations, but you have to understand, this is the 41st millennium. Your spiritual armor is just important as your flak armor. In a universe where demons and dark magics are very real and a genuine battlefield threat, it is important for Guard commanders to have access to people and specialists that actually know how to fight these things and might be able to protect their forces from them. In fact, there are untold accounts in Imperial records of enemies that it didn't matter how many las bolts you threw at them, it didn't matter how many artillery bombardments you called down upon them, they just couldn't be defeated by mortal means, and it required the faith and the spiritual power of the preachers, of the ecclesiarchy, of the Imperial Church, drive them back into the warp and the dark hell from whence they came. However, translating this onto the tabletop has always been something that Games Workshop has struggled with. They never seem to know quite what they want the Regimental Preacher to do, and as a result, the history of rules that this model has is eclectic to say the least. For example, back in 3rd and 4th edition, they simply gave full rerolls to hit in close combat to the unit they were attached to. Not all that good with a unit of guardsmen, but particularly spicy when their flock was a full mob of ogres. But then you move on to 5th and 6th edition, where they're completely different, and they hand out fearlessness to the unit that they're part of. They can't be broken in any way, shape, or form. And also, you've got war hymns, which meant that you could do a leadership test, and if you passed it, you could pick a bonus from this table of 3 choices, one of which was like a invulnerable save, others was giving you more attacks. It was kind of wild. Then you got to 8th edition where they completely streamlined it and was like, look, any unit within 6 inches just gets +1 attack. That was very straightforward. It was pretty good, and it actually, for the first time, allowed the Preacher to buff multiple units. And then going into 9th edition, they took a step back and they started having random chances of getting their buffs off again, a bit like in 5th and 6th edition, and maybe you got 4 rerolls to hit on a unit, maybe you got a 6 invulnerable save, or maybe you got nothing. It depended on how much communion wine the Preacher had been drinking before the battle. However, all of that is ancient history. I mean, the 9th edition codex came out a whole 6 months ago, guys. How can you even remember something that was such a long time ago? Totally not salty at all. We're in 10th edition now. What does the Preacher do? Well, let's start off by taking a look at his unit profile. He's got a movement value of 6, a toughness of 3, a 6+ save, 3 wounds, leadership 7, and OC 1. Most of that's pretty standard issue. We've seen similar profiles on other hero level characters such as the Commissar and the Platoon Commander. The noticeable exception, of course, is the save. He only has a 6+. Might think that's pretty terrible. Why would I ever take him? He's going to die to a stiff breeze. Well, don't worry, because that 6+ save is pretty much never, ever, ever going to be used because he has a 4+ invulnerable save. This is pretty spicy. In a weird sort of way, this puts him on a similar level to Strachan and the Lord Solar. There are very few sources of 4+ invulnerable save in the Guard Codex, and the fact that the Preacher has one is pretty cool. But it is traditional. For those of you that have been playing the game for a while, you'll know that the Preacher has a Rosarius. It's a symbol of his office, and within that is a powerful field generator. At the end of the day, though, it's not going to make him invulnerable. Remember, he only has 3 wounds and he only is toughness 3. It's kind of there to stop the occasional stray bullet and give him an actual chance. He's not suddenly going to be able to tank the entire damage output from a squad of Khorne Berserkers. In summary, standard issue human profile with a fancy gubbin, giving him a bit of interesting durability. We then move on to the weapons he can take, and he has a weirdly eclectic mix. You would think that this guy would just come with las pistol and chainsword and that would be it. But as it turns out, I think GW has tried to accommodate many of the historical Preacher models that they've sold over the years. And so he comes with, as standard, a holy pistol and power weapon. Now the power weapon is the same as you've seen in many other instances. He gets 3 attacks with it, weapon skill 4+, strength 4, AP -2, 1 damage. It's a power sword. But the holy pistol, I have no idea what this is. I assumed it was a bolt pistol at the time, but then I saw the fact that not only is it strength 4, AP 0, damage 1, which is a bolt pistol, but then it's got 3 attacks. It's some sort of rapid firing auto bolt pistol. I don't know what it is, but I absolutely love it. GW could have just given him a las pistol. They could have given him something really basic, but instead they went the extra mile and gave him this unique piece of war gear. Is it ever going to do anything? Probably not. He's only got a blitz skill of 4+. But is it cool? Goddamn right it is. But that's not all. Because you can swap out the power weapon. Let me be clear. Just the power weapon. Not the holy pistol. He's always got that. So you can swap out the power weapon with an auto gun and chainsword. So suddenly this motherfucker is running around with a pistol on his big iron on his hip, an M16 on his back, and he's revving a chainsword round his head. It's crazy. Or you can go old school cool and go for the Preacher shotgun and chainsword. And again, keeping that holy pistol. Now, the autogun is essentially a las gun. It has got rapid fire 1, range 24, 1 attack, specific skill 4+, strength 3, AP 0, damage 1. But that's actually quite a good weapon because it means that if you're having a unit that's going to be doing a little bit of DACA, the Preacher can actually join in with his autogun, but it is essentially a las gun, so don't expect too much from it. The Preacher shotgun is essentially what you would expect from a shotgun. It's range 12, it's 2 attacks, it's skill 4+, it's strength 4, AP 0, damage 1. Although, why would you ever pick the Preacher shotgun? Sure, it's assault, but pretty much no other weapons in the guard unit are going to be assault, right? So that doesn't really mean anything. You're not going to advance just for the sake of your Preacher shotgun being able to do something. It's got the same range as the holy pistol, the same stats, but the holy pistol has got 3 attacks and the shotgun's only got 2. I don't want to spend too much time on this. What I'm trying to say is either rock up with the autogun, holy pistol and chainsword, or stick with the holy pistol and power sword. But the Preacher shotgun is never really going to be a great option. Just a little side note here, and I know I'm really going on about these weapons now, but I want to talk about this not from a tabletop point of view, but from a modeling point of view for just 30 seconds. I really appreciate the extra effort GW has put into giving him this variety of weapons. Preachers are not meant to be cookie cutter. They're not meant to be all cut from the same cloth. They're meant to be these crazed battlefield individuals who have chosen life on the front lines rather than the safety of a cloister. And as a result, they all bring their own different way of fighting chaos to the battlefield. So being able to field 3 Preachers in your army and them all to have completely different and unique loadouts, it actually harkens back to an earlier time, a different edition when GW gave players much more variety and freedom when it came to creating their characters. And it's only a little thing, but like I said, I really appreciate it. But let's move on to the crux of the issue, the main point, which is, as with any guard character, bar Strachan and maybe Nork, you're not taking them for the weapons and the profile. You're taking them for the abilities, the force multipliers that they can provide to your troops. Firstly, and in many cases the most important ability, is the Preacher is a leader, and he can join quite a few different units. He can join your Cajun shock troops, your Katan Jungle Fighters, your Deathcore Krieg, your Infantry Squad, any of your battle line essentially. But you can also join some of your elite infantry too, like your Kazakin and your Scions. On the one hand, it's quite nice. He can join a large variety of units. There's 6 different ones there. There are many characters in the Guide Index which for some reason are really picky about who they're going to join. I'm looking at most of the Cadian ones. But on the other hand, I feel like GW's missed a trick because the Preacher is a combat-focused character. Not in terms of his own damage output, but in terms of what his abilities do, as we'll see in a moment. And yet he can't join any of our really dedicated combat units. Why can't he join Ogren? Why can't he join Bulgrin? These guys would benefit from him immensely. Sure, he can join Jungle Fighters, but they're more of a bully unit. They punch down on other light infantry, and at best they can go toe-to-toe. Things like medium infantry, like intercessors, but the moment they come across a dedicated combat unit, they just get flattened. So whilst it's kind of cool that he can go the Catachans, and there's definitely going to be some functionality there, it's really a shame that he can't go with some Ogrins. It would be brilliant to see a big unit of proper stompy lads getting led into battle by a mad bastard priest waving a chainsaw around his head and leading them from the front just to see them smash some heads. That would be amazing, but sadly it's not something we can do. But if what he can lead is a bit hit or miss, the same cannot be said for his other unique abilities, which are definitely hit. Start off, we've got War Hymns. While this model is leading a unit, melee weapons equipped by models in that unit have sustained hits 1. I love this ability because it's just simple. We're back to the days of priests just having something that's always turned on. I don't need to pass a leadership test. I don't need to roll a dice. No. If I am leading you, you are getting a straight up damage buff. You're getting sustained hits. If you've got power weapons in your unit like Deathcore Krieg, amazing. If I am part of a big blob squad that might have a command squad in there or some other combat character like Strachan, everyone's getting sustained hits. So it's great. It's a straight up force multiplier. It's a straight up damage buff. It can really work well with lots of different units, power weapons, and all sorts of stuff. So War Hymns is back on the menu, baby. And next up, we've got Holy Piety. Now, when I first read this ability, I thought it was amazing. I mean, genuinely like S tier. Sadly, it is a shadow of what it could have been. Each time this model makes a melee attack, unless this model's unit is battle shocked, you can reroll the hit roll. Now, when I first read that, I thought it said the whole unit got full rerolls to hit. But that's not what happens. Only the regiment. Sure, that's kind of helpful in mitigating his weapon skill 4+ that he's got on his chainsword and power sword. But it would have been so badass if he could have given full rerolls to the unit he was leading. I actually don't think that would have been a problem as well. I know some people thinking, well, Mordian, can you imagine giving full rerolls? That would just have made the unit so powerful. It would have made the Preacher an auto-include. I actually don't think it would have done. And my thinking behind this is because look at the units he can join. He's only joining basic guardsmen. Alright, giving basic guardsmen full rerolls to hit is only really going to enhance their bullying ability. It's still not going to get them into the realms of being able to take on Khorne Berserkers or Custodes man for man. And speaking of Custodes, you have to remember that there's a lot of fights first out there as well. So typically what would happen when this unit led by a Preacher fully buffed up would go into a unit, they'd all die before they get to swing anyway. So my point is that it would have made him really good. It would have made him interesting. It would have opened up the door a crack into Combat Guard. But I don't think we would have suddenly seen Combat Guard running around dominating the meta. As it is, unfortunately, I think the Preacher was looking at everything. Holy Piety, War Hymns, leader, his weapons, his profile. I don't think he brings enough to the table to be warranted as a good unit. I think he's okay. I think he's 3.6, not great, not terrible. But I'm not sure that sustained hits 1 is enough to make him an auto-include. And if we're just brutally honest with ourselves, we get down to brass tacks and we trim away all the shit, all the stuff that's bamboozling us, all the fluff. That's all the Regimental Preacher is bringing to the table. Sustained hits 1 in combat for 1 unit. That's it. All the cool stuff around his Holy Piety and his Invulnerable Save and his pistols, all that stuff, none of that actually matters. None of that's going to have an impact. It's just War Hymns. And if he could join Ogryns, I think that would be enough. Considering his relatively cheap 35 points cost, I think that would be enough. But because he can't join Ogryn, because he can only buff relatively basic infantry, I don't think he's bringing enough to the table to warrant his inclusion in anything but a narrative or fun army. Of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you think that the Preacher is a bit of a hidden gem? Is there some kind of crazy combo with the Kachan characters that I've not considered? Or do you agree with me and think that he's more of a fun unit? Of course, if you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. And if you found today's video particularly fun, informative, or interesting, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be helping me create more content, but you'll also unlock a whole host of perks for yourself. Things like badges next to your name, also loads of cool emojis, but the big one being access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with over 2,000 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got loads of different channels. We've got ones for hobbying and painting, tactics and army lists, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. And I just want to take a moment to say a massive thank you to all of the channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. You truly are the lifeblood of the channel, and I couldn't do this full time without you. And I want to take a moment to say a special thank you to all of my top tier supporters. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So thank you so much to Alan Blunt III, Amy DeSweet, Bon Vert, Ken Starr, Mark Panconi, Ross Miller, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Once again, guys, thank you. Genuinely couldn't do this without you. Your incredible and generous support just makes a huge, huge difference. I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.